We're going to try to go down and answer a few questions for you. Obviously, you have a lot of questions, and we understand that. And it is a very, very fluid investigation currently, and will continue to be. And so there will be things that we can't talk about. Not that we don't necessarily want to, we just can't for obvious reasons. But obviously, we're here. There's been an arrest made in the murder of Jeannie Patton. Sean Lester, 35 years of age, was arrested late last night, early around midnight or so, or maybe right before, I can't recall. But he has been charged with first-degree murder in the arrest of Jeannie Patton. And we're very, very happy that we've been able to make an arrest in this case, and for the victims and for all the questions and all the other people that were concerned out in the community. 7.5 years later, but again, very early in the investigation. I think everybody here would agree that when these kind of things are, when an arrest is made, a lot of people assume that, okay, it's over. You know, it's just a matter now of having the day in court, and so we will continue to work this. Our chief of detectives right now is not available because he is a very, very active as we speak in other developments that have happened in this case, and so. What we hope is, as this unfolds, more developments will happen that will be very promising in our investigation. So I'm very happy. Obviously, we're here with the Sheriff's Office and Mark Plants and my own staff. Work very closely day in, day out with Sheriff Rutherford and his staff. Obviously, Jeannie's, Mrs. Patton's murder occurred out in the county, and our agencies have to work so closely together when you're dealing with drugs and you're dealing with violence, and because people come into the city, they leave the city, you look for suspects outside the city and in the city and all that good stuff. And so it's very important the agencies work together. We always have. It's very evident, and they may have a few words, but other than that, we just want to get that out there that we do feel very good about the arrest we've made, but at the same time, it's very early, and we anticipate, some more developments.
Can you tell us what led to the arrest?
Well, for now, you're going to have to probably refer to the complaint, which is public record. But obviously, when you go back 7.5 years, there's a lot of leads come in, and then they kind of dry up for a while, and then then there's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's more, and it's hurry up and wait all the time. And I think it's clear, though, from our agency and the Sheriff's Department, the other agencies that have been involved at different times, is that there's a lot of perseverance here, a lot of tenacity, and it's always challenging when victims' families say, well, nobody cares. Cases go cold, but cold is a terrible word to use because they're still being worked on. They're still active. They don't go back in a shelf or on a vault and then never worked on again. It's just sometimes they do kind of get a little stale more than cold. And in this case, there's been leads that have been generated, and they continue to be generated, and it's just heated up. So
I make a decision. At this point, we're too early on. I can't tell you what the evidence is because I don't know it all yet. But what I can tell you is that we have enough evidence that this defendant shot Jeannie Patton, and the legal standard of that is probable cause.
Are you open to the possibility of investigating this suspect for other possible crimes?
110%.
Okay.
I mean, at this point, the investigation is still ongoing, and at the end of the day, once all the evidence is collected, we'll review it, analyze it, and determine whether any more crimes have occurred, and then we'll make a decision based on the evidence whether to move forward with other prosecutions or not.
What's the reason for the second-degree murder charge? It's just first, right?
I think it's first-degree murder. Should have been, yeah. It's first-degree murder, which the charge is.
I think someone in there is taking that. The definition includes both.
Okay.
And I think someone in the media is taking that. Right?
Okay, so it's just first.
And then in the end, when you indict somebody, you just indict for murder, and then a jury picks up that charge document.
Mr. Plants, do you believe that Lester was the trigger man, or what about this other individual? Was it a truck?
I can't speak about any of that. You know, all I could say again is that in the recent weeks, we've had 2 people come forward. This defendant, according to the complaint, admits that he shot Jeannie Patner. He killed her. And there's other circumstances that are in the complaint, other evidence and testimony that corroborates that statement. And there's a lot more corroboration that's out there, but I don't know it all yet. I got to wait to see the completed file and the completed investigation, and I'm just not going to speculate about any other possible connections.
I have a question for the sheriff.
Yes, absolutely. Sheriff.
Sheriff, the chief touched on it, the perseverance of an investigation, the 7.5 years, the frustration that builds and flows and ebbs. Can you talk about that from, I mean, your agency, obviously this murder happened in the county and you guys were on it from the beginning. Talk about that aspect of the case from the Sheriff's Department.
Well, it is frustrating. You know, you want to, there's only one other group of people that want to solve these homicides more than we do, and that's the families. And obviously they want closure on it. They want to know what happened, why it happened, and who. That's why I think all of us have dedicated everything we have to trying to find out what it is, because we don't want to put it, as the chief said, into a lockbox and forget about it. You know, we're just never going to. It's never going to happen. And you know, depending on a lot of suspects, a lot of people that we've talked to, and one agency I think would be hard pressed to be able to do everything, and that's why we had the task force involved with it, because it's just a very large, encompassing investigation, and a lot of that was kind of put in different agencies' hands, and this portion of the investigation was taken. The Charleston Police Department took the lead on this. So we did everything we could to help them in that portion of the investigation, and they did likewise on the portion that we were doing and other agencies were doing. So we've worked, you know, pretty closely together. You know, it's been a combined effort on everybody's part.
So is there a timeline you can give us how long you've been looking at?
I think they were, you got to remember, this happened initially before I became sheriff. But my understanding is that these individuals were known to the investigation at a fairly early stage, I would say.
Has he been questioned by anyone? Can you answer that?
Well, no, that's the delicate part of this. I mean, it's obviously it's interesting, but we definitely don't want to try a case in the media. That's something we really don't want to get into.
Has anybody know where Tito is? Is he still at large?
Yeah, we're getting into particular. You know, we're kind of getting into real particulars now. I'd rather kind of pretty much let's shut her down, and there'll be more to come. Of course, y'all are going to have questions and days, but
Ask about the relief that comes with an arrest like this.
the relief from the families or
From
from
your from a law enforcement
Well,
standpoint.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
you touched on it, the sheriff's touched on
Right.
it.
But
that you guys want to catch bad guys. So
you know, that's exactly right, Kenny, because most law enforcement officers are type A personalities, and you know, we have our own little stereotypes and all that other stuff that, you know, that people might say about us. But at the end of the day, these are competitive people, particularly investigators, but all walks of law enforcement. They want to solve these cases. I mean, they want to solve. They get frustrated with their job like everybody else. But at the end of the day, they want to solve these cases. But there's a thing called the Constitution, and it guides us how we can operate and what we can do. And so, yeah, there's we're, like I said earlier, it's very early, and we're happy to be where we are, and we feel the cases want to continue to grow and be stronger. But we're very, the officers are all, I don't want to say relieved. There's a good feeling. There's a step right now. There's a step.
When in the investigation did your guys come to realize that this wasn't a random shooting, or at least in their belief, or a random shooting, and it was in effect, there was motive behind it, and it was a solvable crime, and it could be solved here?
That's something right now, Bob, really don't feel comfortable talking about.
Can you talk about